All right, folks, we've got Phillip Aldridge coming up in just a flash. By the way, David Sim, who is the director of Gal Architects, he's been out in Christchurch just for the last 3 days. He was addressing the expo yesterday. I can assure you he is highly engaging, highly entertaining. He will be up straight after our first thespian. This is like the thespians hour. It's a pleasure to welcome actor and chief executive of the Court Theatre, Phillip Aldridge. He's been boss of the Court since 2005. Formerly a merchant banker and company director, with plenty of theatrical experience from the UK as well. Please welcome Phillip Aldridge.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to confine my comments mostly to the CBD. No city. Do we have a slide? We do. No city should be too large for a man to walk out of in a morning, said Cyril Connolly, better known as a literary critic than an urban planner, but absolutely on the money. As I walked out of the city on the afternoon of the 22nd of February, I can't say that it was this most pleasant aspect of Christchurch that was foremost in my mind. New Zealand is a civilized size. Christchurch is a very civilized size, and we've got a lot of things going for us. We've got a great past to build on. Of course, what we've literally got to build on is a swamp, but we can engineer our way around that, as we've just been hearing. If we were starting from scratch and not being ogres, we might choose not to build on a swamp, but there we are. Here we are, small and swampy. What we do have going for us is a noble past, a distinct and distinctive character, a built heritage that is widely loved and admired, and a determination to rise again. But we must be bold and we must be visionary. Be bloody, bold, and resolute. Allow me to make some exclusions. I'm not going to talk about a number of subjects that others can address with much greater knowledge. I'm not going to address issues of building code, of eco-design, of transport, of areas without the CBD, of walkways, accessibility or sustainability. All of these and more are vital considerations and important discussions, but I'm going to focus on 3 areas. First of all, a financial model and structure for innovation, a public-private partnership. Secondly, the imperative of quality and excellence in design and concept. And thirdly, activities, the need to draw people and life back into the inner city. People attract people. And I'm going to conclude with a suggestion for action that I think we could take now. Let's begin by having a drink. With that greatest sobering reality that defines and determines everything we do, that sets the parameters for all our plans and dreams, money. Estimates of rebuilding costs vary enormously. One putting it at $25 to $30 billion, give or take a bill or two. As you do, insurance, government funds, raised taxation, you and me might optimistically, apparently, raise $25 billion. But we're short by $5 billion, and that's a lot of money. The balance must come from the private sector. We therefore must establish a mechanism where private sector investment is an integral part of the structure of the financing of the city rebuild. There are models and precedents, of course, that we can learn from. Quite early on, after February the 22nd, I was allowed back through the initial 4 Avenue cordon to retrieve the servers from the Court Theatre. I came out devastated, as everyone did who saw it. I went home and I wept. It was much, much worse than we were seeing on the television. I tried to express it. I tried to tell people that I met, and I said it's like Beirut in there, which was a very unfair description to Beirut. I was referring, of course, to the war-ravaged city after the Civil War. the Paris of the East. Beirut suffered that catastrophic war which finished in 1990. The city needed to be rebuilt, and has been, with huge success. In 2007, it was named the top place in the world to visit by the New York Times. This astonishing turnaround was the vision of one man, Rafik Hariri. It was also his legacy. For his trouble, he was assassinated in 2005. But in the early 90s, he knew that the destroyed city needed a strong, unified body to drive the reconstruction. It had sole charge of financing and the project. A publicly listed company called Solidaire was established, and it is that body that drove the rebuild of downtown Beirut. That body had the legislative ability, similar to the legislation in place here today, to compulsorily purchase property. Property owners were given fair valuations and the option of cash payouts or shares in the company. Private investors also came in. It was a marriage of the existing stakeholders, the property owners, the landholders, the government, and private capital. And all have benefited. And most importantly, so have the people of Beirut. Not only has the company succeeded in rebuilding and reinvigorating the city, but the investors in the company, property owners and the private funders alike, have seen their shares significantly increase in value. A successful marriage, then, of public and private funding to the benefit of us all. We need a strong, vision-led, financially sound vehicle to drive the sustainable rebuild of the city. And the government, of course, are in a very strong position to do this, and well positioned. I'd like to move on to my second point and consider issues of beauty and excellence in the built environment. The Gherkin in London, the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, the Sailboat Hotel in Dubai, the Flatiron in New York, the Louvre, Lloyd's of London, and this last is the Wales Millennium Centre in Cardiff, which was a regeneration project in the impoverished Docklands area of Tiger Bay. That English inscription, it's got Welsh on the left and English on the right, reads, "In these stones, horizons sing." Absolutely inspiration. Well, whether you like them or loathe them, they're all iconic buildings of world renown, statements of civic pride and excellence, and they're certainly bold. But they're not for us. These are not our realities. They're too big, they're too expensive, they're too assertive, too costly to maintain, potential white elephants. There seems to be a consensus emerging that we should build a low-rise city of the future. How wonderful would it be to see the cathedral spire standing resplendent, the highest point in the inner city, with uninterrupted views from all points. Low rise. But let's marry that with beauty, craftsmanship, and ambition. Let's be appropriate and realistic, but let's not be unambitious. The built environment must be aesthetically pleasing and uplifting, grounded in excellence, in excellent design, and executed by craftsmen. Let's banish the bland and the ugly. There's a widespread, entirely understandable, general reluctance to inhabit high-rise buildings. Well, let's banish them. Let's make this a point of distinction for Christchurch, a uniquely modern, low-rise city. There are many voices advocating for a low-rise city, sound, reasoned, learned, substantive, and popular voices. I'm with them. But let's marry it with distinction. Of course, we have our inherited built environment and buildings of distinction already. The importance of these buildings to the identity and the spirit of the city cannot be undervalued. They anchor our place. They anchor our memories. Our urban fabric, which includes both historic and recent buildings, represents the accumulated cultural capital of 160 years of urban growth. How we treat their recreation will be revealing and will make a strong statement about this community. Do we rebuild them as they were? Can we recreate them pretending that nothing has happened, producing something that might be mistaken for an old structure? I think we must step back and question ourselves. Do we reconstruct to remember or to forget? If we replicate the original building, do we eliminate memory, deny our past, and wipe out an uncomfortable stain, a part of our history? We're formed by our experiences, and we, in particular, have been formed and have bonded by our shared experience of the last 9 months. I acknowledge that we want familiarity, and we want to anchor memory, as well as secure the inheritance of our ancestors and our predecessors. But we can do that without having to exactly rebuild as we had before. We can do it by recreating shape and form, volume and materials, but make something of today that celebrates and commemorates our history. So old and new, designers, architects, and planners, be bold, be resolute, but be of today as well.